Hello and welcome to the Ultimatum RHAPup. I'm Asia, and I'm very excited that we are here to cover the Ultimatum Queer Love. If you didn't know, Mary and I covered the Ultimatum Marry or Move On that happened in Austin, Texas last season. So if you've watched the Ultimatum in the past, I guess, year or so and you didn't know about the podcast coverage, definitely go check that out wherever you got this podcast. But we are here to talk about the season that has dropped. It dropped on May 24th on Netflix. And of course, I'm here with my Love is Blind, the Ultimatum partner in crime, Mary Kwiatkowski. Mary, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I completely had blocked out the subtitle of the first season of The Ultimatum, had no memory of that. It's not particularly descriptive of the cast or anything, but yeah,
Yeah.
season two. I don't know. When we covered season one, I don't think that we necessarily thought there would be a season two of The Ultimatum, but here we are.
Yeah, I don't think we did because we were like, "There's no way they do this again," but they fooled us. But I'm very glad they did do it again
Yes.
because oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk about this, and I'm so excited that for this season we have an amazing co-host joining us for the entire season, because there will be 3 weeks worth of episodes, 3 weeks worth of podcasts, and so I'm very excited from Survivor 41 and Rob Has a Podcast, So Pride is Spoken. We have Dr. Evvie Jagoda. Evvie, how are you?
What up, Asia and Mary? I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe that I have an official co-host spot here. Very, very, very exciting. I love listening to y'all's coverage of Love is Blind and everything like that. So feel really excited to be taking the dive. I only saw bits and pieces of the first season of The Ultimatum, so I cannot wait. I have a million questions about how this possibly, like, this is wild enough with all queer people, and I really can't imagine men being a part of this in any way. So I would like really love to hear a little bit about how that all happened. Yeah, this has to be one of, I mean, it's like this and Temptation Island are probably the most out there dating show premises, and this is even wilder than Temptation Island, and I didn't think anything was wilder than Temptation Island. So I'm very excited to be here and talk about this, and obviously love an all queer dating show. Really, really, really excited. Some of these episodes are going to be during Pride, so it feels very, very appropriate. So thank you all for having me.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. Um, Before we dive into any of the content, if you plan to watch The Ultimatum Queer Love, go back and watch it. Watch the episodes that have been released. We're talking about episodes 1 through 4 here. So if you plan on watching it, go watch it. Then come back to the podcast. If you don't plan on watching, you just want to listen to us talk about it, then welcome. Enjoy the ride. But if you want to know where you can find this podcast coverage and you didn't find us on YouTube, we are on YouTube. We are on the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube channel. So you can find us there. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast, at robhasawebsite.com/first sight feed. It's on the Love at First Sight feed. So even if you search that wherever you listen to your podcast, you can get this coverage as well as Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, the show Perfect Match. It's all there for you. All these love shows. So if you're feeling
Asia,
lovey-dovey, that's where you can find it.
do you remember last year when we did the first ultimatum? I think the reason we had initially thought, "Ooh, maybe Evvie would be down for this," was because Evvie was, I think, had commented on our like Instagram live we were doing for the end of the season. We're like, "Evvie's in the chat! Evvie!"
Yeah.
So when this season rolled around, we're like, "Ooh, maybe we can get a co-host."
Right.
Hell yeah. I love popping on the RHAP Instagram. So that's just always a joy. I think I watched, because like my partner at the time was watching it, but I didn't really watch the first season, but I definitely saw bits and pieces of the finale, and I was like, what in the actual hell? So I feel so excited about this season. This is wild.
Yeah,
And
I don't know. It's yeah. The premise of this show is just kind of wild. So if this is your first time hearing about the Ultimatum, basically the gist is these are pre-existing couples entering into this experiment where one person has given the other person an ultimatum. This season they're really harping on like the ultimatum giver and the ultimatum receiver, which I don't feel like they focus that much on that the past season. So the goal is you spend one last night with your original partner, then you technically break up. This person is now your ex. You spend 1 week dating the other couples, and then from there you're going to choose a person from another couple to go through a trial marriage with. Then you go 3 weeks in that trial marriage. Then you go back to your original partner for 3 weeks to, I guess, see if you still like that person. And then they decide if they want to break up with their original partner, leave single, or be with their person that they chose in the trial marriage. Simple, right?
My favorite part is, especially this season, they keep saying like, and remember, at the end of this, you're either going to get engaged or you're going to break up. And I'm like, but there's no like legal reason they have to do that. Like, they don't have to break up.
Yeah, it's the same with Love Is Blind. They're always like, and then you'll say goodbye forever if you don't. It's like, well, at least see you at the reunion, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Although, that being said, I think that the emphasis on like needing to make a decision does factor in, because especially on Love Is Blind, the couples who don't get married, some of them continue to date, but I don't think any of the couples who have continued to date actually end up ever sticking together. Only the couples who have gotten married stick together. And if you want to know anything about the previous season of Love Is of The Ultimatum, I have no memory of any of the couples. I have no memory. I know that there was one that surprised us all, and then they got married. Like, not just engaged. Didn't they like have a wedding on
yes,
the show
that's what
too,
I
out
saw.
of
I
nowhere?
saw that.
Yeah.
That was the only thing. And then at the reunion show, they were pregnant. So that was the only thing I remembered about that season, because it's not so much about the couples, it's about the format on this show. That is the thing that blows me away the most. And this season we have 5 couples, but the 6th couple is the host and the choice, the meeting at the table where they have to pick. That is my favorite part of any reality show of all time.
Yes. I mean, well, speaking of the host,
Yes,
we have Joanna Garcia Swisher, which is very interesting because we know that Netflix has loved Nick and Vanessa Lachey on Love Is Blind and The Ultimatum. And how does she quite fit into this?
I personally am outraged by the choice of host. Like, okay, get the Lachey's out of there. I'm all for that. Replace them with a cool queer couple. Let's get Chrishell and G Flip as the hosts of Ultimatum season 3. That's my pitch. I mean, she's fine. She's totally fine, But like, she's both not queer. They went out of the way to say that, which I felt like was a little red flaggy to me, like how out of the way they went to say that. And then she feels very nervous and uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, I've never really liked the Lachey's on any of the shows, but I do now see having one person, like, I miss the element where the Lachey's cornily will be like, well, we know because of marriage, you know what I mean? But this host has nothing. She's not queer. She's not in a relationship that they're talking about on the show. I think she is married in real life, but she's not like bringing that in. So it's like, there's, and she seems like nervous. Like, I don't know. I'm like, what is she? I don't know what she's doing there.
Because I totally would have, I guess I would have more understood a host, like someone who is a host. They've hosted other shows and they come in. She's an actress. I mean, people are like, oh, you don't know her from Reba? No, I don't watch Reba. So no, I don't. I looked up her IMDb information. She's done a lot of work. So, but I just didn't feel, I was just confused. Like, did she just tell her agent, hey, I kind of want to host something? And they're like, oh, we have a blank hosting spot for you.
So I did some quick Googling about this. Don't have an answer. What I do have is that apparently there was a petition that got over 40,000 signatures to remove Nick and Vanessa from both this show and Love Is Blind. Spoilers, it sounds like they are still appearing on Love Is Blind season 5. So
right. That petition came like way after this. As you said, like this one was filmed fall of 2021.
Yes. And so I looked, the first season of The Ultimatum was filmed in the spring of 2021. This was in the fall. There were a lot of questions that we had going into the previous season, especially around the way that they cast people and what they told them the show was. Because in season 1, apparently they weren't told that the show was called The Ultimatum or what it was about when they went on to it. And so they all just sort of had to randomly pick like, okay, which one of you in the couple is going to be the one to give the ultimatum, which one's not. And I don't know if that was different for this. My gut would be because they were so close back to back, they probably had a similar thing. So maybe we can blur these lines of like the person who's the ultimatum giver versus receiver, because they probably didn't come into the show like having that exactly.
Wow, that is honestly quite fascinating, because I do feel like the people have settled into the roles pretty, like I feel like in the couples they've really taken on the I'm the one that wants to get married, I'm the one that not, except I don't know, Tiff at one point did say to Mildred, I don't know that this is real, ... or something. So maybe not every single one of them, but I do feel like the dynamics are quite interesting. I feel really excited. I mean, these are wait, how many couples are there? There's 5.
5, yeah.
5 very different couples. And I feel really interested. I mean, just like, obviously, I think it's really cool that it's a show that's all queer people, all queer relationships. I feel like you're getting to see a lot of different types of queer people and queer relationships. It's a very weird format, but I feel there's a lot of meat on this. I feel, excited to dive in.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I probably going to have some questions for you, Evvie, around queer relationships and around how this show differs from the straight version, the first season, I guess, because I almost feel like in some ways this format works better for queer relationships, because there's a lot of like stereotypes and pressure, especially when it comes to intimacy in heterosexual relationships, that gets put on the show. And I feel like already in these first 4 episodes, a lot of that has handled differently. And I don't know if that's just these specific people or if that's more like, I don't know, tropey or what, but I found it very fascinating.
No, I mean, I just like I said, I truly could not imagine this with men. I'm like, I need to go back and because like, I mean, you're already obviously seeing like a fair amount of, things like jealousy and things like that. But I do agree, like when I see some of these scenes about, them in these trial marriages, I shudder at the thought of imagining it being like, you're my wife now. Like, you know what I mean? Like that honestly makes me so uncomfortable. And like these conversations, when the people are talking to each other about the couples, the idea that it just is a different vibe that it is like all these queer people. And I also think in general, like as a side point, that like, non-monogamous relationships, I think, are a bit more common in the queer community and things like that. I feel like some of these people probably have more or less experience with that in ways that I feel like is coming through in some of the communication styles and the way people are interacting and things like that. So yeah, I feel excited to offer some queer translation whenever necessary, and the takes whenever I have them.
Yeah, but I mean, well, I guess to your point, Mary, about the differences. One thing is that whereas in the last season of The Ultimatum, they only have 4 options. In this season, they have 8. And so the options just open wide up. So let's dive into these original couples. Okay.
Yes.
So I personally, before we get into this, I am personally a fan of all of the new couples.
I was going to say, that's the other thing. Unlike last season where I was like, maybe there was one new couple that we were kind of rooting for, on this one, there's almost exclusively am I rooting for new couples and not original couples. There's like one original couple I'm rooting for, and all the other ones I'm rooting for new couples.
Wow.
I know, Evvie's blown away.
I am shocked. Okay. I think there's only one new couple I like. I'm not saying that I like any of the pre-existing couples that much either, but I cannot wait to dive into that because I do not agree.
Well, and there's like I said, and call me out definitely, because it gets brought up on the show that there are some stereotypes that come up with, like, I mean, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Yoli who mentioned even the term like a U-Haul lesbian and stuff.
Right.
And so, and that's why I feel like when they did the first season, The Ultimatum, about the most you could expect would be that a couple would break up and one of the new couples would start dating after the show. None of the new couples are going to be getting engaged after 3 weeks in those relationships. Maybe it's just me, but in this format, I'm like, I could see some of these couples girls like hitting it off.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes. I have to say, when I heard about the show, I was like, I am about to be so embarrassed on behalf of my people because lesbians will get engaged to someone that they dated for 3 weeks. And honestly, if they do, I think they will have like a happy relationship for like a little bit. Like I do think they will go for it, like full in. We'll get the dogs, we'll get the U-Haul, we'll do it. But that doesn't mean it's what you should do or that it's like actually a great idea. I think that lesbians just are more likely to go for it in that way. But yeah, I'm excited to break those down.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how you're not rooting for
Yeah, I
any
know.
couples.
Okay, let's get into them.
So with the original couples, okay. So the first one we have, which I think is going to be it. I've seen some interesting debate about whether one person in this couple is a villain or not. So we have Xander and Vanessa.
Mhm.
So
Are they a villain? There's a question mark after
I
that.
know, apparently. So they've been together for 4 years. They're both 30, but we know that Xander gave Vanessa the ultimatum. And so they, and the way they got together was their boyfriends were best friends when they were in high school, and then they ended up together. So what are y'all's thoughts on this couple?
Okay, this is so I only watched all the episodes one time because I was in a rush. We had Survivor 44 finale on Wednesday, and so this is one where I'm really excited to go back and watch because the more you get to know Vanessa and Xander, the less and less I can possibly imagine that they were together for as many years as they were. Like Xander seems so sweet and grounded and kind, and Vanessa is like having a freaking moment on this TV show. And I do think there's some element where I do feel like she's kind of like devolving maybe in a way, or like having some sort of honestly like mental health moment, like in the or some she is not attached to reality throughout the show goes on. So very hard for me to imagine them together.
Yeah, Vanessa gives me like and we kind of saw this with on this most recent season of Love is Blind, the girl that was with Zach.
The girl. Never,
Oh,
I have a different Love is Blind
Irina,
where it was like, this is a show, we're having fun. This is like, who's taking this seriously? Like, no one's actually thinking about that, right? Everybody thinks this is a joke, right? And I feel like Vanessa's the only one on that vibe. And so then it's just kind of like everyone's looking at her like, what are you doing?
I feel like, all right, I don't want to be screwed over by this again, because I've been every season of one of these shows, in the first drop, I'm like, this is my person. I stand them. I'm in love with them. They better not do anything to disappoint me. And then in the second batch, they do something to disappoint me. Xander, you better not do anything to disappoint me, because you're my favorite person on this show.
Yes.
I love everything about Xander. And it's one of those scenarios where, and you see this all the time in couples, there's one person where you're like, they are in it, they're so sweet, they're there, and then the other person is taking advantage of that love, is what it feels like. And obviously we don't know these people, but just looking at the show, Vanessa feels to me like someone who's not only like here to have fun on the show, but I could believe that is how she is in her relationship too, where she's like, yeah, like we're together, we're monogamous kinda, but like, I don't know. That's how it feels. I feel like Vanessa is by far the villain, but in like a fun way. Like I'm not like, oh, I hate Vanessa. I just think that Vanessa is playing the villain for sure.
Okay, I think that Vanessa is like, I think in the relationship with Xander, I think Vanessa is a taker. I definitely get that. I think like it seems very clear that like, yeah, she just expects that Xander will always be there for her, always love her, so she can do whatever she wants to them, and it's fine, like and behave however she wants in the world, and she'll always have Xander. However, I have to say, in some of the specific things that have made her villainous to others, I don't agree. Like in the conflict between her and Lexi that began, like okay, so I'm so fascinated that you said, Mary, that they didn't necessarily actually like for the first season like know that it was like one person was the ultimatum giver, one was the receiver, because okay, Lexi and Vanessa got into that whole conflict where Vanessa was like, oh, I can't see myself getting married anytime soon or anything like that, which Lexi read as like, oh, you're not here for the right reasons. But this isn't Love is Blind. This isn't we're all here to get married. This is
Right.
explicitly half the
True,
people are
true.
here because they don't want to get married. Like, or, you know?
Literally.
So like the expectation that everybody's here to get married is like kind of not what this show is at all. Like it's to figure out if you do. So Vanessa just realizing or being very clear of like, oh wait, I really don't. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with
Yeah.
some of the ways she interacts with people and manipulative things and such, so we'll get into. But the original thing of like, she clearly does not want to get married anytime soon,
Yes.
or maybe ever. I have nothing wrong with that. You know, like,
Yeah. I feel like in this relationship, and I feel like either Vanessa, it's almost feeling like Vanessa is like finding herself during this season and figuring
Yes.
out what she wants in life, and I feel like she has clearly communicated. I mean, she said she wants freedom. She doesn't like the permanency of a monogamous relationship, and I'm like, is Xander clear on that? That like you want maybe more of an open relationship. You want to maybe explore being poly, like I feel like that's the picture is painted clear to us and everything she says throughout these 4 episodes. But Xander clearly wants to be committed to Vanessa and wants to be like and grow a family with Vanessa. And so my issue with this relationship is that they are not it's not even just the same page on marriage. It's the same page on what they want out of a relationship or what they see a relationship. So yeah, I agree with you, Evvie. Like 4 years, how has this lasted so long?
seriously.
That's the part I'm confused about, because it makes me wonder, like, all right, they've been together for 4 years. What have those 4 years been like? Because has it been one person who thinks they're in a monogamous committed relationship and the other person who doesn't? And I don't know that. The other thing I did write down though is that there's a lot of scenes with Vanessa where I'm like, she's annoying me, but I also can see myself talking this way. So, and not about like, I think there's a lot from Vanessa that feels very selfish, right? Feels like, here's what I'm going to do and here's what I want, but no, Xander's not allowed to do the same thing. There's a lot of that feel, which is not the part I identify with, but mostly in all of the dates, Vanessa asks these questions that I'm like, I could see myself asking this on a first date with someone too. Like, ooh, just the way that she's very flirty and jokey and like easy to dive in. You know, I could see why people are drawn to her.
Definitely. No, she was great at the dating. The dating was like where she thrived, because she does have that extremely bubbly life of the party personality that, you know, love it or hate it, but a lot of people do love it, you know. I think I think the biggest red flags for me with her are especially the ways in which I feel like Xander goes out of their way to be like very kind in the way that Xander talks about Vanessa, even as others are criticizing Vanessa. And like, I feel like Xander always kind of is standing up for Vanessa, and Vanessa is out here mouthing "fuck you" at Xander,
Yes.
like telling someone else that Xander's maybe asexual, which feels like such a violation of Xander's privacy to be like, you know, just like so many things that, and something else that made me wonder. I think Vanessa said in like the intro stuff that like before Xander, she was mostly dating men. And I can kind of like see a world where, you know, Xander was this really exciting thing at first for Vanessa, where it's like, oh, I'm going to like try not dating, not a man. And like, what's that going to be like? And then Xander, you know, grew up and is like, okay, let's settle down. And Vanessa is actually just chasing that like free spirit thing. And, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, except if you're not communicating that and being rude to your partner, you know?
Right.
Exactly.
And I think out of everyone here, the two scenarios you have are like person who wants to get married or person who's fine in their relationship but just doesn't necessarily want to get married right now. Those are the main categories, and that was the same way in the previous season. Vanessa's the only one who feels like, yeah, I don't want to get married, and also I'm here to take this experience to be able to date a bunch of other people for fun, like for a short period of time. And even in the first season, there wasn't really anyone who was like that. There were a couple people who, once they got in to the new relationship, started sort of liking them, but there was no one else who came in being like, woohoo, free pass to go date a bunch of other people. And that's very much how Vanessa feels.
Right.
Yeah, like Vanessa sees this as like a little hall pass.
Yes.
Whereas like in the first season, there was a guy who there wasn't anybody for him in the experiment. Like the trial marriage, he like wasn't really into that person, and then found a random woman at a bar and like made out with her. And that really set like, upset his partner. He was like, well, isn't that what we're doing with this? And she's like, well, but this is like confined. That's different. You're going into the real world and exploring. That's weird.
Right. Which, I mean, I think this gets to that the premise makes no sense. I mean, like it does not make sense that a trial marriage with just a random other person who also is like trying to figure out if they should get married to their partner would help you have that clarity. Really? I mean, I think some of these, there's going to be some grass is always greener kind of vibes and things, but I don't know if it's really like, maybe everyone could do like 3 to 6 weeks of like intensive couples therapy, and that might
Right. That's a
possibly
thing.
more
Yeah.
effective method. But Vanessa's definitely Temptation Islanding it, like that's the vibe. And she clearly learned something about herself, I think, and what she wants in her relationships. So,
Yeah. And I think the only way that this truly works is if the person that was given the ultimatum gets in this new relationship and now sees marriage, now wants to commit. And then that should allow them to see, oh, I just don't want to marry my current partner. Like that's the issue.
Or conversely, and this is kind of what happened in the first season, more is coming back now that I'm like starting to get back into the ultimatum thought. In the first season, there was a couple who a woman gave the ultimatum to her boyfriend. And after the initial dating phase, when they're like sitting by the pool and stuff, he realized he didn't like anyone else. And then he agreed to marry the person who came here with them. Or maybe he had given the ultimatum, but he agreed to her terms, or I don't remember exactly what it was. But so I do think that there is the way that this can work also is if you, in the trial marriage, you're using it not as a time to get to know someone else, but to learn about the flaws in your own relationship. Have a third party come in and point out to you, hey, maybe this is why things aren't great in your relationship because you do these qualities, and you can sort of like it's almost like get feedback on your dating style or your relationship style. So that could work. Or if you get in a new relationship and you realize, oh my gosh, I had it so much better before. Like, and so those are the ways that it could work in terms of like agreeing to the ultimatum that your original partner gave you. But I don't think that it's exactly set up for, it's more set up for like, either you realize that you had it so good, you didn't know what you had until you lost it. Or like Evvie said, grass is always greener. Oh shoot. Yeah, actually, the issue is not like that I don't want to commit. It's just that I don't like that person. Maybe someone else out there.
Yes. Well, and I think there's also the third thing. So I think those are like the ways in which it can work for the like ultimatum receivers and things like that. But I think then there's also, I feel like it's very clear that some of these ultimatum givers just want to get married and it doesn't really matter who it's to. And I think that's where some of this U-hauling type stuff is coming out. And some of it feels realer to me than others. But, it's like, if you are actually just like, oh, well, this person, it's like, so how serious were you about really marrying the person that you gave this ultimatum to?
Exactly. That's such a good point because we do kind of see that with Tiff and Mildred.
Yes.
So even with Xander and Vanessa, we do see that Xander starts to even question doing this in the first place because of the potential of losing Vanessa. And Vanessa's like, look, I'm going all in. Don't get mad if I like someone. And so we clearly see like where her head is head going into this, which is why like how she is throughout this process isn't that surprising because I feel like she's made it clear with her energy. But the second couple, we have Yoli and Mal. So Yoli is 34, Mal is 36. They've been together for 3 years, and Yoli gave Mal the ultimatum.
And on this one, so like last season, I wrote down like what the core issue is for each of the couples. And for this one, the way that they present it is that Mal is fine with marriage eventually, but wants to be more financially stable before they get married. And it's always tricky with these shows, but you kind of have to bring up the inevitable, like a lot of these people want kids. Some don't. They're 34 and 36. I mean, I don't really know. Eventually, at the very least, you got to start working on the kid thing, even if you're not doing the marriage thing yet, if that's a priority for you. But yeah.
Well, and there was, and by the way, that's especially true, right, for queer couples where it's a process, like a multi-year process for so many people. So yeah, they're gonna have to get on that. But the other thing, I feel like this couple, Yoli and Mal, there were like a couple different reasons given. Like at first, it was like this whole financial thing. Then there was also Mal being like, Yoli is obsessed with every one of their lovers, you know, and so like what makes me different or special. Ironically, Mal then in the trial couple is like ready to marry Lexi, so it's like who is the one with this you know, pattern, or is it both of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we saw that constantly once we get to the trial marriages, and you know, Yoli's with Xander, and Mal is just surprised that Xander doesn't have an issue, and all Mal can think about is all the negatives about Yoli. I'm like,
Yes.
do you actually really like her?
That was
Because
weird.
I feel like you're nagging on so many things about Yoli, where, you know, obviously Xander and Yoli are going to be in this like honeymoon period of getting to know each other, but I think at the core, I think Mal needs to realize it's not just one thing that's really interesting with this couple is that even though Yoli gave Mal the ultimatum, Mal is the one unsure about Yoli, because Mal says that, you know, Yoli has had this same energy with all of her past exes as she has with Mal. And so Mal's like, what makes me different? Why all of a sudden you want to get married to me? And I think that brings up your point, Evvie, that Mal is thinking Yoli just wants to get married. And it doesn't matter if it's to me or anybody, Yoli just wants marriage. And so it's just like, yeah, that could be it. But do you think that even if Yoli just wants marriage, if they have a good thing, is that enough of a reason for Mal to just be like, okay, this Yoli's not for me?
And that's the thing. It's like I feel like I saw that and I went, Mal, if you love Yoli and you also want marriage, then it's not a problem if Yoli just want. Like, I mean,
Right.
You've been together they've been dating for 3 years. You've been together for a long time. And so I wonder sometimes if the issue with the couples is not whatever they're saying, but is they're stagnant, or maybe they're, you know, they were dating for whatever reason, but actually they come to find out once they get in, put in these new couples, that maybe it's not the things they're saying, but it's something deeper, that the reason that they don't want to commit to each other. Because most people, if you're together for, you know, 3, 4, 5 years and you want to get married, like you probably know everything you're going to know at that point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It definitely feels like could be some projection where it's like, yeah, Mal says the problem is that she's not sure about she doesn't believe that Yoli could be so sure about her. And it's like, so maybe you're just not sure about Yoli.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's that does seem to be what's maybe happening. By the way, Mal is like the most beautiful person ever.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a hot group of people.
I was going to say, once again, very attractive cast.
Very attractive cast.
I watched these 4 episodes in New York, which it was so great seeing you again, Evvie.
Yes, so fun.
Have to say
so
that.
fun.
Sorry,
IRL.
Yeah. We had a great time in New York. But I did watch these first 4 episodes. Just first watch was just for enjoyment, and then I rewatched. And so the first watch, I watched it with if you've listened to Rob Has a Podcast, you know Mari Forth. I don't recommend watching a show with another podcaster because he had so much to say. We talked constantly. We kept having to pause to like go in depth about what we thought, because we're like, we're missing the show because we're talking too much. But yeah, I was telling Mari, I was like, Mal's hair color, I feel like that hair color could look so forced for some people, but it works so well for her.
And her style in general, every single thing, impeccable.
It's a
and everyone else on the show noticed too. Like, I mean, Vanessa makes a comment at the beginning, but I think we have like at least 3 or 4 people say at some point, like, "Ooh, Mal, very attractive," like very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel
and they like pulling off the hats, like really cool hats too. I feel like that's a hard look for some people.
Yeah. So with them, I feel like the writing is on the wall, because if y'all don't feel that way after 3 years, I think that's a sign. And I think that we do see later with the way that they are in their trial marriages, like this should be a wake-up call for them. But I don't know. They're 2 people who I would like to see the good. I feel like even some of these couples, we saw the good in this last night together, but with them, I was just like, where's the why y'all are together type of scene.
And that's going to be very exciting in the second RHAPup episodes when they get back together.
Yeah, because it seems a little tense. So the third couple we have is Ray and Lexi. Ray is 27. Lexi is 24. They've been together for 3 years. And the moment I saw them on the screen, I told Mari, I was like, they are just best friends. Like, why are how are they a couple? And so then the more and more we learn about them, all the way through Vanessa dating both of them, I was like, they're very similar. Like they both, like even Lexi says, like she wants to be able to, like she's so independent, wants to be able to provide, and Ray gives me that energy that she wants to also be able to provide, and I feel like they're just they're on the same like it's like they want to play like the similar like role in the relationship where it's just like I can't even imagine them together.
Yeah, I feel like they're a very tricky one because first of all, Ray is just like by far the most like reserved energy person, I feel like, of
Mhm.
any of the cast. So it's just like so hard to get a read on like
Mm-hmm.
what she's feeling and you know, like whether she's happy about things or not. Like in honestly, like almost every interaction that she's having, I find it really
Yeah.
hard to tell what's going on there. Honestly, Lexi, I have extremely mixed feelings about Lexi. I feel like the beginning of the show, I was very like, wow, Lexi's like so smart and clear and like just having these amazing conversations with people. By the end, I'm like, I honestly, I think Lexi's equal part villain with Vanessa.
Ooh.
Wow.
I think that Lexi is honestly a very good talker, very, very good at like portraying herself well. She does come off like above her age. She's only 24. She's the youngest person on the cast. But I don't know. I see like major red flags in the relationship with just how Lexi is, honestly, with a lot of the stuff that happens, which we can talk about when we get to like the various pieces. But I do find it extremely. Why are you giving an ultimatum at 24? You know what I mean? Like that's a little weird. But you know, I don't know. I feel that Lexi is very like this is the right stuff to say and like do, but like not necessarily. I don't buy a lot of it. That's my take.
That's so interesting because
Mm.
my biggest takeaway with Lexi was Lexi talks way above her age. Like she was one of the people who I felt like even in the interactions where she's calling Vanessa out or upset or whatever, the way that she's phrasing things, I'm like, okay, you're not just being like, oh, you're horrible. She's clearly stating what the things she has issues with. Um, Look, when I was 22, I was like given ultimatums. I mean, not really, but I was like, I thought at that point in my life, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted and how it to lay it out. So I don't want to talk like someone who's 24 can't ever, feel ready for marriage or whatever. But because Lexi is by a decent margin the youngest person in the cast, it is very interesting to hear her talk that way compared to some of the other people. But like in terms of emotional maturity, you compare Lexi to someone like Ozzy, who's 42, and there are definitely times where I'm like, seems like Lexi knows a little bit more what she wants than Ozzy does. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I get necessarily villain. I'm always on a lot of shows. I will have my like villain red flag out there for someone who's spending so much time concerned about someone else rather than like their own journey. But I think a lot of it probably comes from insecurity. I think we could probably track most of this down to Lexi is afraid that Ray is going to like Vanessa and afraid that she's going to lose Ray. And that's why she wants to make sure Ray is clear on her issues. But,
Yeah, I think Lexi, I think most of her conversations are really good, but like when she gets in that like anger mode, it's
Mhm.
extremely like very like over the top and like I mean, I think like what did the original conflict was I felt like Vanessa just being like I don't want to get married. Like that's not what I want to do. That's what I'm like realizing
Mhm.
now. And that's totally fine. Like I said, like she
Mhm.
was an ultimatum receiver. I feel like that threw Lexi because Lexi was hoping that she could maybe trial marry with Vanessa and was like very like she wanted Vanessa to pick her. So I think like,
Right.
yeah, like you said, some insecurity, a little like maybe like rejection or feeling a little like led on, or like, but then she kind of like, I feel like she's framing it all of this like, I'm trying to protect like Ray from, and I just like don't believe, no, she's
Yeah.
trying to protect herself, like you said, Mary. She's afraid of
Yeah.
I think Vanessa screwing up their relationship. But the reality is like, Ray is your person. Trust Ray. Trust like,
Mm-hmm.
trust that that y'all can talk about it later. But like, I don't know. I feel like the level, it's like the level of vitriol against Vanessa that she's displaying, for at least what we've seen on the show, didn't like seem like that serious offenses. Like I'm not saying Vanessa's good, but I just like feel like Lexi's reactions are like also not that good. That's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
because I did have to really pay attention to that scene when I rewatched it, because I'm like, what triggered
Right.
Lexi in this moment? And I think it was that she had gotten in her mind, everyone's here for marriage. When
Right.
girl, no, they're not. That's the whole reason y'all are here. Half of the people are not here for marriage. That is why they are there. And so when she's like, when she gets so triggered by Vanessa saying, hey, the 3 weeks trial marriage to somebody, hey, and I don't expect Xander to move on. We're good. I know Xander's going to come back to me. Like, Lexi, you should be focused on an ultimatum giver. If that's
Right.
literally what your goal, I mean, not even that what your goal is, but if you want somebody who has marriage in mind, she should have exclusively dated the ultimatum givers.
Right. Yes. And I feel like it's like, yeah, the other thing she seemed so upset about was this idea that Vanessa wasn't afraid of losing Xander, like didn't think that's it.
Mhm.
Like that seemed to like really set her off in this way, where
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, again, like I don't think it's maybe like a very healthy dynamic in Xander and Vanessa's relationship, but I don't really understand why it caused her to be like so angry at Vanessa in this way, where it felt like it was like coming from, yeah, she's feeling like I'm worried about losing Ray, and just like everything that Vanessa is saying is like she's like putting that emotional lens on it or something in this like very over the top way, in my opinion. I mean, like she also like I feel like acts like Vanessa is being like super like rude to her and like flaunting the Ray thing, which in some ways maybe Vanessa is, fair enough.
A
But
little
in the
bit.
scene when they're all together, Lexi in front of Yoli is like, I had a person who didn't want to get married, and like now Mal does want to get married. Like
Yeah.
that's got to be
Yeah.
torture for Yoli. Like I feel like Lexi just like I don't know. I feel like she can dish it, but she can't take it. Like she just like is so insecure when like everybody's kind of experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. The one other thing I'll throw out there is that something comes out in the scene that you're referring to at the end when they're split into two groups and they're talking around the tables, is Lexi brings up something that we didn't hear in the original argument, but it sounds like at some point in the original breaking point between Lexi and Vanessa when they're sitting on the park bench was that Vanessa brings up that she is leaning towards picking Ray, or that Ray is one of her top people, but she's not physically attracted to Ray and doesn't feel a romantic connection. And I think that most likely is what really threw Lexi off, of you're not even taking this process seriously to where you're going to basically potentially lead on my significant other, and you're already fully admitting that you're going to pick someone who you're not even attracted to. And that's, that, I mean,
Yeah.
whether or not you're interested in marriage or not, I feel like that would be something that would annoy me. I personally feel like I would be spending a lot more time concentrating on my own journey, my own process, than anybody
Yeah.
else's, because that's something, that Vanessa has to deal with. Like if your partner chooses to pick someone else instead of you, it's not going to be because 3 weeks of seeing like something. If it's because of this experiment, it's because they realized that they were missing something in your relationship.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And that, because I'm thinking like, Lexi, your relationship is with Ray. If
Mhm.
anything, it should be you reevaluating what Ray wants, because Ray is continuing to decide like, hey, I want to go with Vanessa.
Right.
So it's like that's where you should be focused. It like reminds me of like with Bliss and Zach in Love is Blind, where Bliss was like, okay, if you pick Irina, that's going to tell me a lot about you. I feel like that's how Lexi should approach this. Don't get me wrong. I do think that Vanessa is playing into this villain role and wants to be the villain. But I do think that Lexi's attention here is so it's focused in the wrong direction. I mean, but then you have other people hopping in with her, like Mildred, like Yoli, who are just despise Vanessa. So then Lexi definitely feels a little validated and like, okay, yeah, we don't like Vanessa.
Well, because a lot like the Bliss, Zach, and Irina situation, when you see like the Vanessa saying, F off to Xander at the table when they do the choice, I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And there's probably other things like that Vanessa's doing that are making them feel much like when Irina was, laughing behind the corner when I can't remember who it was getting dumped. It's like you don't want someone in this process where you're all trying to be mature about this who's just here to, mess things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And to be clear, Vanessa's behavior is bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. I find Lexi a little sus as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my eye out
it.
for that in the next drop because so far I'm higher on Lexi.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. I see the red flags.
Yeah, no, fair.
Yeah. It's like, I guess I do like Lexi specifically in her trial marriage.
Yeah.
That's the context.
Yes. Well, and the other thing about Vanessa, they're definitely doing the, Vanessa's here to be an influencer, like Vanessa's, but like, y'all, what are any of you doing here? Let's be honest. Why are you on this show? Let's be honest.
I will say, like my TikTok knows I'm watching The Ultimatum.
Yeah.
The person I have seen the most TikToks from is Ray.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I'm shocked because I was about to say, I feel like any of these people could be here for internet fame except for Ray because I'm getting nothing from Ray. Because Evvie, I was going to say the exact same thing you did. I cannot read Ray at all. I can't read when she's happy or when she's sad or when she's vibing with someone or not. And I don't understand her relationship with Lexi, but I don't understand her relationship in the trial marriage either. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's just because she's reserved. Like, I think she's just not a person who's comfortable like really telling everyone. But oh my gosh, if I was dating someone like that, I'm like, gotta give me something. I can't read you.
Which is clear, like it's clear they're on this show because Lexi wanted to do it. I mean, I know Lexi's the ultimatum giver, but like Ray doesn't strike me as someone who would have ever applied for reality TV on her own. So our fourth couple is Mildred and Tiff. So Mildred's 33, Tiff is 32. They've been together 1 year and 11 months. They could have just said 2 years, but they really wanted to say 1 year and 11 months. Tiff found Mildred because she went on Instagram and looked up the hashtag lesbian Latina. Amazing. Found Mildred, and the rest is history, and they're together.
What a meet cute. What a meet cute for the modern days. I mean, okay, this couple, I mean, and we'll talk about Aussie and Sam. I think it's wild. Like the fact of them two getting paired up with Aussie and Sam, which feels like it's just, these people are very different from one another. And I mean, all we really get from Mildred and Tiff is we have horrible communication and we have amazing sex. And that's the vibe of this couple. Doesn't strike me as marriage material. Seems like they both individually have a lot of stuff they need to work on. We see coming up in the trial marriages. But this was the one where it also felt the most contrived. The idea that Mildred wants to get married. I mean, Tiff even said, like, I'm not like buying, like how does that feel real? I don't know. I'm very confused about that couple.
What just like when we were learning more about them, for them to say like Tiff is like, oh, we break up all the time, but you always come back to me. I was like, is that not a sign of toxicity that y'all are constantly breaking up? And Mildred's like, oh, this isn't going to be like all the other times. How many times have y'all broken up and gotten back together?
Yeah, I mean, and then there was like before the choice when, Mildred was like, I just like don't connect with you in a deep way like I do with Aussie. Yeah. And then Tiff just like kisses her and is like, do you feel connected now? And it's like, really, there's one level in which they really deeply connect. That seems clear. It looked great. They showed us kind of a lot of it. And good for them. but that's not the foundation of of a serious thing. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And I just find it very interesting that like we do find out that like Mildred has been married before. Mildred is a mom. And the fact that they only connect physically, it's just like, what is the foundation of y'all's relationship? And I think that's the point of conflict, because obviously Mildred wants something deeper, but Tiff is a-okay with where they are.
Tiff's another difficult read, because I gotta know. It'll probably come out soon on like an article of what they told the contestants this show was, because once we get into the trial marriage, I'm like, Tiff has a very different idea of what the trial marriage is than everybody else does. It seems like Tiff is very much like, no, you're supposed to be acting the way I want you to, and like you love me. And everyone else is like, no, the point of this is we're seeing how we are. We're not just like,
right.
we're not
Right.
actually in a trial marriage.
Right. Well, and it seems like, I mean, I feel like the vibe of a couple that is constantly breaking up and getting back together, it's like every argument or like every conflict is a make it or break it conflict. You know what I mean? There's like
Yeah.
no like off ramp towards like a reasonable resolution to like an individual problem. It's just like everything is like, should we be together or should we not be together? Okay, fine, we'll break up. Oh, but I miss you and I'll get back together. You know, it's just like so cyclical. And I think we all know couples like that, or have heard, you know, like it's just like, y'all, like this is not working, like except
At
for the
all.
breakups, you know?
Yeah. And in the fact that Tiff is just like, I love Mildred so much, but if I had to get married to her today, I wouldn't.
Right.
It's
I
like,
mean, that
oh,
says it
okay.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
Uh,
does.
so just
And
different goals.
at least with the two of them, like especially Tiff says, you know, we have bad communication. I'm like, okay, well, at least you see
You
it.
know.
Yeah.
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 And then our last couple is Aussie and Sam. Aussie's 42, Sam is 31. They've been together a year and a half. But Aussie wants to be together for 5 years before they get married.
Is this 5 additional years? Or
Right? I
does
don't
the year
know.
and a
Or
half
five
count?
total. Yeah. Do we only have 3.5 to go?
I don't know.
Can Sam be patient?
I don't know. Ozzy seems like someone who's very much still finding themselves, and they mention a couple times. I feel like we could probably, you know, hypothesize more into this. That it seems like I don't know what Ozzy's like history with themselves, like coming out, all of that is. This might be a newer thing that like they're only getting to, you know, explore now, because you see 42 and you think, oh my gosh, haven't you had, you know, 30 something years to explore this? But that might not be the case.
Yeah, and I found it so interesting. I was like really shocked that that Aussie and Mildred ended up like seeking a romantic connection with each other, because I really got the vibe from their conversation that it was like, oh wow, like they do have like a communication. I mean, in the dating part, they seem to like have a good connection in that way, but that it didn't seem romantic to me. It seemed like Aussie was finding Aussie's self. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and talking about their gender and like, you know, Aussie's gender and everything like that. Yeah, and I mean, Aussie definitely gives some like, I mean, growing up to do, and not about their identity, but in life, like some growing
Yeah.
up to do vibes. Like the vibe with Aussie's friend was very like, oh, marriage is like you know what I mean? It just like definitely give off that vibe of like someone who's like definitely maturity level potentially below their age.
Yeah.
But okay, I have to say, Sam, obviously we see very little of Sam, but I think
Yeah.
Sam's the best one. Sam says smart stuff and is like very grounded. Like the best thing that happened to Tiff is getting paired with Sam, and probably for Mildred also, because I think Sam in this bunch is, I think, the like good, clear, like really like it's like Tiff got the couples therapist. I think like
Yeah.
that's what I, you know, like Aussie. I mean, Mildred and Tiff got this like very interesting couple mix out with Aussie and Sam. I feel like Sam's a gem, even though we see very little of her.
Yeah, it's like the show keeps forgetting that they are on the show.
Yes.
Like Aussie and Sam.
I mean, and Sam, I, you know, maybe I need to do a rewatch, because I didn't see anything that I disliked in Sam, but
Yeah.
I saw almost nothing. There's like almost nothing there. Sam showed me. Here's what Sam showed me. Way more patience than I have, because
Yes.
if I was in
Yeah.
any of the scenarios that Sam has to deal with Tiff, I would have been like, nope. And I mean, just the fact that you watch even Ozzy and Mildred and you think, okay, Sam is with Ozzy in real life. This is Sam on a day-to-day basis, like having to like, I mean, Sam says herself, like, tiptoe around, or not tip, that's not what she says. She says, like, oh, if Ozzy is in a particular mood, you just have to wait, and then you have to learn to approach him the right way. Like, he's like very like therapist feeling.
Yeah.
And it does make me wonder, like, Sam, there's probably someone out there that you could just be a little more free with. But
Yes. No, definitely. I just, especially in those, I mean, just the way she talks, you can tell Sam is a person who has done self-work. And
Yes, for
that's why
sure.
she's too boring to show on the TV show.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, we already have Ray. We can't show Ray and Sam.
Yes.
Or y'all will turn the show off.
Yes. And just to say, like, now that we have all the cast out there, I just do want to commend Netflix for like great racial diversity, great like age and like gender expression diversity. I do think it's a shame that they're not putting pronouns in the chyrons like we had to look up. We, by the way, think that Aussie mainly uses Aussie, and that Tiff now uses they them pronouns is like prominent in their bio. So I think we're gonna lean into like using those, but like they should have that on the show. That's like a little messed up. But otherwise, I think like they did really assemble a quite diverse cast that I feel like really is pretty cool, like compared to other types of reality shows.
And now I get to ask my first embarrassing straight person question. So there's also a relative diversity and mix between the couples who have sort of like femme mask pairing, femme pairing, like stuff like that. And one question I had was, coming into the show, I was wondering, is it going to be you've got 8 options to look at, or are people going to more generally look toward their type? I mean, this isn't like a queer versus straight thing. People have types that they look for.
Right.
And does that fit as much? I mean, I think we've seen in a couple of these swaps, maybe that line is a little more blurry. But
it's such a good question. And I really thought this was very cool in the dating portion. Like I really liked, I think it was Tiff and Mal like had an open conversation of like, oh, I don't normally like date another like super mask person, but like this is interesting, you know? And I think like you said, like, yeah, Vanessa seems to have gone for like more the femi route compared to her original partner Xander. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's cool. I think like you said, like with anybody, I think types are, some people have more of a type and some people have less of a type, and types like evolve and things like that. I'm guessing people like, you know, it's a mix. Some people seem to have gone with the similar gender expression than like the people they came with and not. But I think it's fun to watch those evolve. I do definitely think there is like tends to be, I mean, the Are You the One queer season tried so hard to be like, everybody here is interested in everyone. And it's like, some of them were not interested in everyone.
Right.
To be honest. Some of them did have like genders that they were more or less attracted to. And that's fine. Like you can just say that, you know? But I do think this, it was cool to see those different pairings. And I think, I mean, from my own life experience, for me, it has changed a lot as my gender expression changes. So does like the people that I'm interested in also, which is kind of like an interesting thing. I don't know. I'm like more masky now, and I find myself more interested in more masky people. I guess I'm really like homo, you know, in that that way. I get gayer as I go on. I don't know, but which is somehow like possibly reverting to like be. I don't know. That's a whole thing. We'll say that for another one. But yeah, no, I thought that was a super cool part of the dating portion that I think is really, really freaking cool representation. I don't want to lose that in this. That like, good job, Netflix. Honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
There was one other thing. I did a little math for stats. The comparing this season to the previous season, this season skews older, and also with couples who have been together longer. So in the first season, the average age was 25 and a half, which is wildly young.
What?
And the average time people were together was 2 years, like the original couples. This season, to be fair, Ozzy bumps up the curve a little bit, but
an outlier of sorts.
Yes, but there's only 2 people in this cast that are in their 20s. So the average age is 30, almost 32. And the average time together is much closer to 3 years, 2.7. So I thought that was also interesting, partially for, we mentioned this a lot on Love is Blind because that show skews older than a lot of other dating shows. To have successful, if your goal is to get successful engagements or marriages or whatever out of one of these shows, you can't be casting all 20-year-olds. Like it's probably not going to turn out well.
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of the dating portion, we go through the dating portion, and I do think it was I thought it was great that they were being open about the fact that, we were seeing like mass dating mask and femme dating femme. And we did, when Vanessa was going through her dating, we learned that she's pansexual because, she was talking about how she primarily dated men before Xander, and now she's come to terms with that. She feels I think she said being pansexual. That's the vibe. That's what she's feeling right now. And so I thought it was very interesting that they were getting into all of that. I mean, it was great because it was showing us, these conversations that we don't see typically had on like these types of shows. There was one thing that Tiff said which I wanted to see how y'all interpret it. She says Tiff said that they can't get down with a girl who eats juicy raw steak. So does that mean that Tiff is like vegan or vegetarian, or is it just like the temperature, like order medium, not rare?
Or was it the idea of someone eating like a big steak, but if they had a little steak, it'd be okay? Like I was confused.
I didn't get that.
Yes, that was so odd. I feel like Tiff has all these like kind of very rigid boundaries, or like not boundaries, or like rigid requirements of
a checklist.
A checklist, a cherry checklist. Yeah, you can't eat a steak. You can't. Obviously, we'll talk about all the dog stuff. Yes. But yeah, I found that was quite odd.
Yeah.
Here's another question. Is this a term? I just don't know. What's a pillow princess? That got brought up a couple times.
Yes, that is a term. So pillow princess, I'm so glad to be here. I like it.
I could have Googled, but instead I was like, I'll just ask Evvie.
So a pillow princess, refers to, the level of activity, let's say, that the person has in the bedroom. So a pillow princess is kind of just laying there is kind of the vibe. Yeah, kind of sad.
That is sad.
Kind of sad, which is like contrary to, a power bottom, which gets brought up later,
know about.
Which the host does know about, which is more like, as they said, you're on the vine, but you're doing a lot of work. So the pillow princess is not doing a lot of work.
Look, I'm not giving Joanna any credit. I knew what a power bottom was. I didn't have to Google that one.
Yeah, it's like, context clues help. So with the dating portion, I think they did primarily focus on who we ultimately do get paired at the trial marriages, which I do feel like leading into the choice, the sit down where like the last season, it was so much drama. This one was like very straightforward. We had, a couple of things that we can discuss, but for the most part, it was very straightforward. Where we end up with those final couples of we get Xander and Yoli, Ray and Vanessa, Mal and Lexi, Aussie and Mildred, and Sam and Tiff. But was there anything else from the dating portion that y'all wanted to point out before we move into like the choice drama?
So we had talked about, we kind of brought up the Vanessa and Lexi whole debacle, because the real thing there was Lexi has, almost everyone narrows down to at least two people pretty quickly, it seems like. So Lexi is choosing between Vanessa and Mal, and then Vanessa is choosing between Lexi and Ray, who were a partner, which is that's just messy, I feel like. And yeah, we talked about all the potential reasons for why this split happens. But if you're not watching the show and you're just listening to the podcast, go and watch that from, I think it's in episode 2, when that happens, because if anyone else can figure out what exactly was the thing that threw Lexi off, but there is a big change there. And then the one other thing I wanted to bring up was that, in that argument, Vanessa does mention that she doesn't think that Xander will find anyone else that they like. And then when they come back together and talk, when Vanessa and Xander actually talk, and Xander says, oh yeah, the person I'm interested in is Yoli, Vanessa gets very upset about that. And we can't even blame alcohol because Vanessa herself says that she's not even drunk. And so she's just upset. And so I was going to ask you, do you think the issue there is what Vanessa said, which is Yoli doesn't like me, so why are you wanting to date someone who doesn't like me, even though Vanessa doesn't seem to have that same concern with her own picks? Or do you think it's just a simple, like, jealousy? Vanessa truly didn't think that Vanessa felt like this was my time to have a free pass, but Xander's not going to stray because I know that, Xander only likes me.
I think it goes to the point later in the choice that Ray pointed out, where Ray was like, it's so interesting that the people giving the ultimatums are the ones that are liking other people. So how am I supposed to be sure if you're not sure? I mean, we can go in that circular reference all day. I mean, but you just have to be coming to this knowing, even if that person gave an ultimatum, it's an ultimatum because if you're not ready, I can move on and I can go be with someone else. And so if they see somebody else who is ready and it's like, hey, I'm getting so much more from you than the person that I thought I wanted to be with, then it's okay for them to move on. Whereas Vanessa in this situation thought there is no way. She felt so secure with Xander. And the fact that Xander is like, yeah, no, I found the person that I like, I want to go through trial marriage with, is just like I think that was the moment that Vanessa realized, because yeah, we saw her going through that contemplation of like, man, before it was an ultimatum and now I just think it's over, because it was just like, yeah, because you thought this is a sure thing. I mean, and they've been together so long. Vanessa probably thinks there would be nothing that would make her lose Xander.
Right. And that made the fact that was the thing that made her feel like, oh, we're done, made me feel like, okay, because the main thing that you like about Xander is that you feel like Xander will always be there for you. So if Xander is interested in someone else, then that is like an ultimate like end to your feelings for Xander, because ultimately your feelings for Xander were only related to how Xander felt for you and that like security in that. But I do have to say, again, Vanessa's behavior is bad. I will say one thing in the pro Vanessa, or like I do think it is it would be very troubling for your partner to be like trial marrying to someone that you know doesn't like you. Like, I do think that is like kind of stressful, like, you know what I mean? Or like maybe even a little like reasonable to be like, how could you like this person that's mean to me? You know, I'm not saying that that's the ultimate thing, and I do think Vanessa is in general being quite selfish, and Yoli and Xander are the ones that I'm rooting for, just to say. But I don't know. I'm like, that's the same thing that Lexi's doing. Lexi's upset because Vanessa doesn't like her and is going for Ray.
Counterpoint.
Yes.
If Xander was supposed to pick someone who liked Vanessa, the only option's Ray. Everybody else just likes Vanessa. It's like Vanessa. It's not like Yoli of her own accord just decided to hate Vanessa. Vanessa antagonized Yoli, I guess. I mean, I think it's the only thing I can say. Because Vanessa's out here doing things like on the first night, publicly calling out, like, yeah, Mal, are you excited for our, like, also, what was the deal with that? Because it's not even like Vanessa and Mal that we saw had any kind of connection. It was just like Vanessa wanted to make other people uncomfortable. Or maybe that's her way of flirting. Yeah. I don't know. And I think I'm sure that some viewers of the show have that same idea that Ray said, which is, if you're the ultimatum giver, that means that you're the one who's locked in. You're not supposed to be finding, you're supposed to just sit there and miss me while I go and experiment. And I feel like Aysha said, there's probably a decent number of people here, and I think Xander's potentially one of them, who, yes, love their partner and want to commit, but also they would commit to whoever they with. I'm not saying that they're going to commit to anyone, but I'm saying if they find a person that they like, they're going to be all in on them too. And so if your partner is not going to commit back, then it's not surprising that the next person they'd be with, or, whoever they do find, that they would also, be all in. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay, I accept. I agree with you on
you
that
accept
one.
That counterpoint.
You accept me. Counterpoint accepted.
Yeah, because I mean, really what it came down to for Xander kind of was either Yoli or Lexi. Lexi was the only other person that Xander was like physically attracted to, which I think they had a lot of fun with editing that.
Yes.
That was
I
funny
about that part.
Yes. Lexi certainly has one particular feature that is
everyone's going
stands out.
crazy over.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think that in this situation specifically, it was fair of Vanessa to expect for Xander to kind of rule out people. Like, they're not picking from the biggest group, the biggest pool out there. They only have so much to work with. Vanessa's already made that impression on everybody. And so it's just they just gonna have to move forward and date whoever. Because we also saw that with how Lexi felt about Ray choosing Vanessa. It's like, really, they only have so many options. If they didn't choose, if Ray didn't choose Vanessa, who's Ray gonna choose? You know? So
Totally.
yeah. So we go into the choice, and two main pieces of drama. So the first one was with Lexi calling out Vanessa. And in turn, people start getting on to Vanessa. That's when Mildred spoke up. And then Xander was like, hey, y'all don't have to take up for me.
Oh, I have a pro Vanessa comment.
Yes.
I thought of one. Here you go, Evvie. I like the way that Vanessa handles other people calling her out. I think Vanessa, unlike some, quote unquote villains on these shows, isn't trying to be combative back. Vanessa does sort of a kill him with kindness thing, right? Like Lexi is calling Vanessa out, and Vanessa's like, "Oh, Lexi, I love you. You are very close to being one of my top choices." I'm not saying that works in every scenario, because it can be very frustrating to deal with someone who's like, I have an issue with you and I want you to admit you're wrong. And instead that person's just like, love you too. But it's a great way to handle internet trolls. So
yes, very true.
Take that.
And so we had that. So any thoughts on how that whole interaction happened, Evvie?
Yeah, I mean, it just was, again, it's just like, I just do feel like, again, these aren't like, it's not like a normal situation, but I in general, and this is like what I'll say about, this is my problem with Lexi throughout the whole thing, is I feel, or like, I feel like the communication flow should be like, I mean, I like that Lexi and Ray had a conversation about Vanessa before the choice happened. That's where the flow should happen. If Lexi is concerned for Ray, Lexi should talk to Ray and then let Ray do what Ray's going to do. And I don't like the flow of Lexi just like trying to like take down Vanessa in front of everyone, because like that will like quote unquote protect Ray, because it's just making everybody not like the person that Ray likes in a way that's like maybe for the best, but maybe not. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of my issue with it. But I mean, yeah, I forgot the part that Vanessa said maybe that she's not like attracted to Ray or anything like that. I mean,
she said she was physically attracted. This was like at the end. She said she was physically attracted, but she was not romantically interested in Ray.
But honestly, I feel like that's what Ray feels about Vanessa also. You know what I mean? That's my best guess as to what Ray feels as well. So it's like, that's fine. Don't you want your, like, honestly, like for Lexi, like you're going to get more security from your partner just being with someone who just like is maybe interested in a little sexy times, but nothing romantic than like some of the other situations. So.
Oh, now this is a tale as old as its time, the like, what's worse, physical cheating or emotional cheating?
What Lexi is doing with Mal is so much more like over the top disrespect to her relationship with Ray than what Ray is Vanessa, IMHO. That's yes.
It literally, Exhibit A. Yes. Them choosing each other at this choice. Was that a proposal? Like,
yes,
they're talking about this person. You're the best person I've ever interacted with. You make me. I don't even just want you. I need you. I was like, what's happening
in front of Yoli? In front of Ray. Like, I feel like that was the most disrespectful thing, honestly. Like, and just like they're just so tunnel vision. I'm like, you're amazing. You're like love bombing each other. That they're like, like, I don't know. That would make me 1,000 times more insecure. Like,
and to answer a question that you haven't asked, but you probably thought, this did not really happen in the first season. Like, people picked each other, but nobody was like, I need you. You're the person everyone was just kind of like, yeah, I had a good talk with you.
Yeah.
So like, I think I'm bribing you. Like, it was more like that. It was a lot less like, I wrote down like, oh my gosh, these speeches are they're over the top.
There was so much weight behind them. I was just like, oh my gosh, these are like, and I can see it. I mean, you spent a week like getting to know this brand new person. It's like, trying a new meal after you've been eating chicken and rice for, years.
Yes.
You're just like, this is amazing. But they did not consider their quote unquote exes.
Oh, at all.
They're doing this.
And I don't know if they were told to like come up with a big reason or if this is just what they said, but in this scene and in the scene in the final episode where they're split into the two groups, almost everything that comes out of everyone's mouth is a backhanded insult toward their actual significant other, because it's like, oh, Sally, I feel like I need you because you respect me. And that's something I haven't gotten before. And it's
ever
like,
in any past relationship.
Yeah. And everything feels that way. Is like,
yeah.
And I think that in the same way that, Evvie called out Lexi, but other people are going to do this in the end. If anytime someone's like, well, we're practicing really good communication and we're doing this. And it's like, they're clearly trying to say, hint, hint, because you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, I wrote that. So I don't know exactly if this was in the choice or a little after the choice, but like some of the quotes between Mal and Lexi, someone said, "I know you more than 99.9% of people."
Yes.
That's insane. Like
you don't know any people then, geez.
Yeah, like I think forever would be amazing with you. Like they are just like, and so I am not rooting for them at all. I think it's very, very fake. I think it's like not that they are like doing.
I want it to not be fake though. I love that.
Yeah, that's
I think they are just love bombing the hell out of each other and just like high off. It's very like, like, oh my God, you're amazing. But like, what are they actually talking about? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
what's the core? Yeah, what are they basing this off of? Okay, true. It could very well be that. But I am rooting for them because I feel like they're so much better together than their original partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like, okay, if this could work out, that would be great.
Yeah. It's like, are they though? Like, yeah, I mean, they're definitely saying they are. They're saying they are. But like, I'm just, and I'm just, I find it so over the top that I'm like, I just am not like, feeling that that's grounded.
I think it also has to do with, I'm like, okay, well, if I think that Yoli and Xander should be together, then I have to think that Mal, that like Lexi and Mal have to, and it's just a downstream effect.
But like, no, you don't.
Yeah, you don't. You can root for one couple. So, I mean, you brought them up right there.
Yes.
Xander and Yoli.
Yeah.
This is the couple we're all rooting for, though, right?
Yeah, I'm rooting for them. I find them
they're my number one
sweet.
couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're super adorable.
Yeah, and it feels like we saw like those cute them like knocking the glasses, like that felt like cute and like real and like and it's still like there is a little like awkwardness and like some stuff, in a way that felt like real. That's why I'm like, I feel like Lexi and Mal to me is like so like, yes, we're perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're constantly saying how perfect they are. Like, oh my gosh, we're so perfect together.
Right.
Yeah. And Yoli and Xander also, I feel like they are two people who gave the ultimatum. So they're more likely to be people who maybe are finding someone who, for the first time, they're not getting pushback from.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, they are the only pairing of people who gave the ultimatum.
Yeah, I find them very, I mean, there was a moment in the dating, which was, I feel like one of the most interesting, where like Xander was talking about how like Vanessa framed it as like, if they had kids, it would be like the ones that Xander carried would be Xander's kids and ones that she carried would be her kids. And like, that was just really, honestly, very sad framing. And I loved the way Yoli was like, of course I don't see it that way. And I'm so sorry that anyone like ever told you otherwise. Like, I thought that was like a really, really sweet moment. I feel like Yoli has said this thing of like, that they're kind of like a protector in a way that like, I get the vibe that like that can manifest as like over taking care of Mal. Like it's that like, there were some of the things when they start dating with Xander, like that Yoli is maybe like cleaning up after Mal or something like that. But like, whereas Xander's more like no, I don't need you to like take care of me. I'm an adult. Like I'm going to like do that stuff for myself. But Xander is this kind of like sweetheart who does need a little protection from some like more manipulative people that like, you know, Xander might let into their life or something, where I'm like, I don't know. I buy it. I'm team
You're
Joey and
sold on
Xander.
this one.
That's the one. That's the one I'm sold on.
I buy it though. Based on the edit from the first season, if they're doing a similar thing, there's going to be a couple that we are so convinced is not good together that will end up staying together. And for me, I could see Vanessa and Xander being that couple. The one who from us were like, no. But then by the end, Vanessa realizes that, you know, Xander's the best, because how could you not realize that? And, you know, I mean, that's screaming Madeline and whoever Madeline's boy. Thank you. I was like, I don't know.
Well, please don't put that out in the universe. I could very well see that being the thing, but I really hope that Vanessa after going through this, decides to just be open and honest with Xander about what Vanessa wants. So I can only hope.
I feel like Vanessa's like holding Xander back from like, if Xander wants to be in a monogamous, serious, committed relationship, but is hung up on Vanessa, like Vanessa needs to let him go.
And maybe mutually, like Vanessa doesn't want to settle down and like go be free and do whatever the hell
fly
she
your
wants,
wings,
you know
girl.
what I mean? Like but also something when Xander was defending Vanessa in that scene, it was very much like, well, Vanessa knows me better than anyone. That's not actually like a reason to like be together. That's like, we have history, you know what I mean? And I kind of feel like that's the thing that both of them,
it's a little sunk costy, you know?
Yeah, right. We've already spent 4 years.
Hey,
you gotta keep it going.
Exactly.
But the other thing with Yoli and Xander is that they do get intimate.
Yes.
So
that'll
be very interesting, I think, when they get back, because they're the only couple that has been intimate so far that hasn't told anybody. So when Mal and Vanessa find out, oh my gosh.
Yes. This was something else that, I mean, it's different for every couple. For all we know, all of the parties involved said you have free reign to do whatever. We don't know. I feel like in the first season, I don't remember if there was anyone who like explicitly was all over each other. Like there might have been a couple kisses, there might have been some cuddle. I don't really remember. Nothing that's jumping out in my mind. But so like again, I just know that I haven't looked at, but I'm sure some people are mad on the internet. It's like, well, why are Xander and Yoli doing this if they were the ones serious with their other person? It's like,
they want to explore it all.
Because they've realized after only 1 week that they have found the person they're meant to be with. So you might as well.
They found the love of their life.
And I'm sure some of the other couples would be getting intimate if they like liked each other more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Aussie and Mildred, I don't think they like each other very much. Like I think no matter like I think Aussie said to say, like Aussie and Sam at the beginning had a conversation of like, yeah, anything goes, or like it sounded like that's what they were saying, but it's like, yeah, they're not like excited to do that with the people that they're with, but like Yoli and Xander. And also Vanessa did have like a sexual encounter with Ray. So Vanessa and Xander clearly are both, you know, that seems like maybe something that
it seems like
but Vanessa did say she was going to be open and go through all of that. And Xander had that understanding, but she also thought that Xander would not do anything. So I feel like it's going to be a very hypocritical reaction.
Sure.
And I don't think that she'll be happy about it in any form or fashion.
Juicy.
Yeah. But speaking of Aussie and Mildred, so we have their trial marriage and it seems okay. I feel like Mildred's fine. And until the house chores come into play. And then we see that Mildred that is, I'm sure, because of what we see with Tiff, with how she is with Sam, I'm sure that this is a very normal thing in her relationship. All of the like just arguing, right? Yes. And so we start to see that, and Aussie is so anti-argument, anti-confrontation, that whole scene of that argument where Mildred's in the bathroom and Aussie is like in the bedroom ironing clothes. It felt so tense, and they couldn't even see each other.
I feel like I missed something in that or whatever. I mean, Ozzy basically says, I feel like you start these arguments and you speak badly of me when the camera's rolling.
Yes.
Because from what I saw, Mildred was like, hey, do you need the bathroom? And Ozzy's like, yeah, I'm going to need it just right at the end, 15 minutes before we leave. And Mildred's like, well, just remember to like be respectful of my time or whatever. And I'm like, it's also
Well, because Mildred was like, oh, we're finally communicating.
and clearly they dislike each other so much they can't even be in the room together, because when we see the bathroom, it is a double sink giant counter. They could have been two people in there. There's
They
no
could make
reason
it
they
work.
needed one person in there at a time.
Yeah.
Unless I missaw that. But I could have sworn when we see Mildred walk out of the bathroom, I'm like, wait a second, there's enough room. You could have both been in there.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree that Mildred is talking to Aussie in a pretty disrespectful way. Like it's just like
Absolutely.
very picking a fight. Like there's nothing Aussie can say to like yeah, Aussie didn't say anything in there that should, but there's some sort of built up resentment that Mildred is kind of unleashing in these moments. Especially like I loved that they included Aussie saying that it mostly happens on camera. I thought that was like pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But we did see in the very beginning when we saw Aussie and Sam, there was something to the effect of Sam being like, oh, now you'll need an alarm clock because like I won't be there to like wake you up or something where I'm like, I bet there is something to the Aussie like the first fight that Mildred and Aussie are in is like about Aussie waking up late and like Mildred seemingly doing all sorts of like chores while Aussie's asleep. And I'm like, we're not there. We don't know, but I feel like I don't think that Mildred is necessarily making up a whole thing, but I think like the way that in which she deals with it is like very, very confrontational.
Because in their first argument, I was on Mildred's side of
it made sense.
like Aussie wakes up late, compliments Mildred on like cleaning and cooking and all that. And Mildred's like, yeah, I'm glad you noticed. But like what I would really like is for you to notice enough to do some of it yourself, because here's all the stuff that I'm doing, which felt like an argument I've seen many times in many couples, right? Like the division of chores and that kind of thing. This is the kind of thing where in this experiment, clearly there's not a love connection between Aussie and Mildred, but maybe Aussie can get some clarity on some of the things in their own relationship with Sam from these conversations. I mean, it can be difficult to have your flaws like laid out to you by someone who's basically a stranger. You've only known them for a little while, and then to actually take them to heart and like have some good self-development on that. But
Right. And it's like when we got to that conversation later where Sam and Mildred are kind of talking about this dynamic where Aussie like is very conflict averse, and it's like clearly Mildred is very conflict forward, so it's like, and I don't think that Mildred and Aussie are a match in any way, but I do think there is something to a little bit of grain of something where Aussie seems so conflict averse potentially, and that seems like something that Sam agrees with, that Aussie is conflict averse in a way that is probably holding back some level of like depth in the Sam Aussie connection. So it's like Mildred is the wrong person to be with that, but I do think there's like something internal there.
Yeah, I feel like this relationship or this pairing or trial marriage specifically is only going to help Aussie's and Sam's relationship. That like them together is not a thing, but like Aussie needs to be with someone like Mildred to put these things like on a billboard in front of Aussie to see like, wait, I'm maybe taking for granted some of the things that me and Sam have in our relationship. And Mildred seems to think that things change when she met Aussie's friend Mo. Do you think there's anything to that, or is just kind of like
I think that seemed like a show world versus real world thing. Like a lot of times on these shows, they're having you, and probably in that initial dating stage, all of your talks to the camera, all of your confessionals, all of your conversations are about love and marriage. Do you want this? Do you want this? And so Aussie's opening up to Mildred, talking about maybe they do want marriage. Maybe, they're learning all these new things about themselves. And then back in the real world, Aussie's talking with Mo, and it's very jokey. It's very haha, marriage commitment, whatever. And so I could believe that Mildred's like, wait a second, I'm seeing a completely different side of Aussie, and is this the real one? ? And Aussie could have also, it seems like, I think Mildred says at some point, I think it's this couple, correct me if I'm wrong, where Mildred says that Aussie's been on vacation for the last couple weeks, and they're trying to live, an actual life and explore what it would be like to be married to this person.
Yeah. Yeah, this couple was very interesting, and I was just like, oh my gosh. But speaking of how Mildred is in this relationship, let's talk about her other half, or her other ex half,
Oof.
Tiff and Sam. So these
Oh.
are the two couples that swapped. Okay, their whole trial marriage is about this dog. Um, okay, and I
Because
know.
Tiff's entire life is about this dog.
Okay, that part is relatable. Okay, to not say my world does not revolve around pepper and cinnamon would be a lie. But
But are okay, and correct me if anything's changed. You're single, correct?
correct.
So you have a little more availability to have your whole life be around your dog.
True.
I don't know if you feel like maybe that would change if you were in a relationship that had been going on for 2 years.
Yeah. Right. And it's a thing called compromise. And
What? I don't think that Tiff has heard of that before.
Right. Absolutely not. Here's my issue. Tiff came into this thinking, whoever I am matched with has to love my dog the way that I love my dog. Sam literally said, and I feel like it went in one ear and out the other.
Yes.
Sam literally said, I love dogs, so I can't wait to have your dog here.
Yes. And that seemed very genuine. Sam loves
Yes.
dogs. I buy it. Yes.
Bought. Okay. And so then Tiff is just like, the moment Sam's just like, oh, I'm not used to sleeping with a dog. I can come around to it. Can't say I hate it, but we can figure it out. Tiff's like, well, this makes me nervous. I'm gonna sleep on the couch because I don't even want to put you in that position. And when Tiff does sleep on the couch, is still mad. And Sam's like, I didn't even ask you to sleep on the couch. But
Yes.
but Tiff has this impression that Sam does not care about her dog, or Sam, what the dog's name? I
Shiloh.
did write it down.
Shiloh.
Shiloh. So Tiff has this impression that Sam does not care about Shiloh. Where is this?
It's not even that Tiff thinks that Sam doesn't care about Shiloh. Tiff is mad that Sam doesn't care about Shiloh to the extent that Tiff does.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like, because I'm fine around dogs. I don't have a dog. I pet sit all the time for my friends. However, I'm not the kind of person who will walk down the street and see a dog and be like, oh, let me hug it, let me pet it, let me do this. It's like, I like a dog once I get to know them and, whatever. If I started dating someone who said, hey, I have this dog, I'd say, okay, gonna take me a little bit to get used to that, but like, sure, I'm sure I'd like your dog. And then they said, dog's in the bed with us. I'd say, I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. Is there a compromise? Can we have a rule where the dog can be in the bed until we're asleep? Is there, and Tiff is just like brick wall. No compromise, no possibility. You need to be all in on my dog. And I feel like Tiff came in thinking that someone needs to come to me and exactly how I am and exactly everything I have. There will be no compromise. There will be nothing. Tiff is acting like they're, the bachelor, the bachelorette saying, everyone is here to be with me and not we are two separate people. Sam did not know going into this experiment that they were going to be with someone who had a dog necessarily.
Yeah.
And by the way, if this is such a deal breaker, then you should have talked about that in the dating portion.
Literally.
Right. And it did seem, it just clearly triggered something in Tiff. Tiff goes, that the level of fight that we had there, and there was so much like, you don't give a fuck. Like, why is it so hard for you to like give a fuck about my dog? It's just like, that is not what's happening, as you all both said so much. That is not what's happening at all. And like, I feel like Sam does a really good job of being like, well, you saying that there's no negotiation puts me in a tough spot, because like Sam is so patient.
The level of patience with this woman, I do not have.
Yes. And then in the after conversation that they had, I feel like that gave me major like, what are their names? Matt and Colleen from Love is Blind vibes, where they're like, the main thing is that we can talk about the fight after. And that means that we're good at communicating. And it's like, no, you just like calm down. But like, that wasn't good. Nothing that happened was good. And like, even in the talking about it, I feel like Tiff was very like, and now that we're talking about it, I know that you're on my team. Like, there's no, like, it didn't seem to be a lot of accountability for like, wow, I
Yeah.
really blew up at you out of nowhere. Like I was being
Yeah,
unreasonable. Like
unprompted.
very much like Tiff, the most Tiff can give is like, wow, was it uncomfortable that I got to screaming? And like, it was very, very, very low accountability for the level of like crisis that came about from Tiff's behavior.
It was absurd. I feel like Tiff was painting Sam out to be this person that Sam is not. I feel like Sam was properly communicating how she felt about this situation, which felt more than compromising. But Tiff just painted this picture that Sam was just awful. And it was that was the most frustrating part for me, because Tiff said that they're just compromising. They're the one that's compromising, and Sam's not doing anything. No, like literally, like, okay, I love my dogs. If anybody's ever heard me podcast, you know that I have 2 dogs that I adore. And if you're watching this, they're right here on this picture and sleep on the floor. So I have friends. It's levels of, some friends get down there, they're in their face, they just love them so much. And I have some friends that are just like, oh, Pepper, Cinnamon, they're cute, and like keep them at a distance. Do I like my friends more who are all up in their face over the other? No, it's just like everybody has a different level of comfort. It'd be different if I had a friend that come over and they're like, put those dogs upstairs in that room, close it, lock it. Don't want to even see them. That's different. And that's not what Sam was doing. And so it just felt like Tiff came into this with no compromise. They're wasting Sam's time because this was the most pointless argument.
Yes.
It was, that was the one that really just got under my skin.
Yes. And guess what, Tiff? You're not actually married. Okay.
Yes.
It's fine. Like you actually could just sleep in separate beds for this whole thing. Or like Sam could, it's like take turns in the bed. Fine. This is like clearly not working. Like that's fine. Like,
and if the case is that you're like, okay, I wouldn't want to be with Sam, this is not going to be, whatever, a thing after the show, still take the opportunity to learn how to practice that communication with someone who's now low stakes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we kind of talked about all of these couples, but it very much felt like there's a triangle happening between 3 couples in the swaps that have some potential actual either love connections or just attraction connections or whatever. And then we had a 1-to-1 swap between 2 couples that probably weren't going to actually be together in real life.
Yeah.
And that's the one flaw I have in the whole choice thing, because otherwise it is an incredible piece of television, that choice, the choice around the table. Is that they still force everyone to be like, and do you choose them back? And it's like, we're at the last couple. Like, yes, they choose each other. There's no other option. Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of Sam and Tiff's just like declaration of love for Mildred at the choice table, where Mildred just is, like, gets pissed and leave. Rightfully so, because if Mildred has never seen the side of Tiff, this is not the moment you think you're about to lose me. Why do people wait until that very moment to be like, wait a second, now let me show you vulnerability, now let me show you my heart? It's just like, Tiff, that was so inappropriate.
And if someone does that, it's probably not completely genuine, because they're doing it basically under duress,
Yeah.
Yes. And and like there was that thing of Mildred saying to us, I've never connected with someone like this, and like that whole thing. It's like, yeah, I feel like Tiff and Mildred have maybe never like gotten to the bottom of anything. You know what I mean? Like it's just this like over the top fights, and then like, okay, now we broke up. Okay, now we'll have passionate sex. Now we'll get back together and everything's fine. And it's just like, right, that like I could see that there's like some, wow, I can be a little more vulnerable in a thing where it's like actually a conversation, but like to blame that on one of them versus the other, or like say that it's like because this special person I'm now like in love with or anything like that, feels like extremely off base.
Yeah. And the fact that I can just only imagine like Aussie and Sam off camera when they get back together. Like, did you have a big fight? Oh my gosh, yes, I had a big fight too.
Yes, Aussie and Sam, whether or not they should be together, I think they're gonna end up together with this, because they're gonna be like, get me the hell out of this other couple. Like they're gonna be so excited to be back with each other.
Yeah, they're like, I want nothing to do with Mildred and Tiff. They can have each other. That just like, some people just thrive off of arguing like that. I'm not one of those people. I'm like, just keep it. Let's just calmly talk about our issues.
Yeah.
So the last two couples we had, so we have Vanessa and Ray and Lexi and Mal. So there's kind of like intertwined with Lexi and Mal. We did get, she's being Mal's being supportive, and then Lexi is being there. I guess I could see how you're saying, Evvie, that they were love bombing. I just thought they're really getting along really well.
Yeah, they're vibing. They're obviously vibing for sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, to the point of Mal saying, "Hey, I could see us getting engaged by the end of this," and even Lexi opening up about her body and just how she's gone through like dealing with her confidence with her body, and Mal just like validating Lexi. I just felt like they have a solid trial marriage, and if they do end up together, it's only because they just see such bad things in their current relationship.
Yes, I think that's what I feel. Like that it's like that so many of the things that they're just like, wow, we're perfect, seem like, okay, you're lacking things in your original relationship, and they're kind of like putting a lot on each other that I don't feel like feels like so actually based in the other person's reality, but I could be wrong,
Yeah. Then we saw Vanessa get her nipples pierced.
That was so bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, what is Vanessa?
The shock value. I mean, yeah, I don't know what Vanessa, I want to make this clear. There's nothing wrong with Vanessa being the way she is. Do whatever you want. It's just not going to get you a lot of fans on a show where people root for like couples. Yeah. But like as an individual, Vanessa, go do whatever you want. That's fine.
Well, and that stuff, I mean, feels very, and I feel that like the montages and stuff that we see with Vanessa and Ray feel very, Vanessa's turning it on for the cameras. Like, extremely so. The nipple piercing is just like way over the top. Like, it's just like, what is happening for you?
Right.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, I don't even know if I should say this. Maybe I shouldn't. I feel like I could see other people acting the way Vanessa does when they're in a scenario that's like, I'm in a group of people who I know are going to like me and find me interesting and appealing and attractive. And so I'm going to turn it on, even if I don't like you back.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of in the way that you'll see like when we were in high school, my sister would like flirt with some of my friends who were 2 years younger because there was no stakes there. She's like, well, I'm not actually going to date you, but like you're those guys who like joke around with them and be like, haha, oh, I love you or whatever, just to sort of, because she knew that there wasn't really anything to be invested in that. And I feel like a lot of times with Vanessa, it's very much like she's running around the beach and she's like, oh, it would be cute. Let me like grab her. Let me like splash some water on her, like that kind of thing.
Yes. And it comes off as so much more off-putting because of Ray's vibe, which again, which is so reserved. And it's so hard to tell, honestly. Like, I don't think Ray likes Vanessa very much, but also I don't actually know 100% in any moment, because sometimes it's just really hard to tell. It's just really hard to tell.
It's insanely hard to tell. Yeah. But they did get a little intimate.
Yes.
And so we saw it here and we saw it at the group night out. Just in-depth description of what happened. Yes. And Vanessa, for Ray to first of all, Vanessa cannot read a room, because obviously we saw from the moment that Ray woke up that she regretted it.
Yes.
And for Vanessa to be like, oh yeah, I did that to you. And it's just like, read the room. That's not what she was talking about. Yes. Or that's not her point. Her point was the fact that they did anything at all, and the fact that she had to go tell Lexi because she felt so bad. I feel like Vanessa saying this was just like a sign. I know she's 30, but I kept thinking she was in her 20s, because she said that her and Xander, because of high school and then the 4-year, whatever.
Yes.
I felt like that was just so immature. We never heard explicitly what Yoli and Xander did, but we know,
Yes. Yes. I mean, yes, so graphic, and clearly made Ray quite uncomfortable that Vanessa said it like that, which was like very, yes. And it seems so. Is y'all's interpretation that Lexi and Ray had an explicit "we will not be intimate with other people" rule? Because that's kind of my read on that, right?
I feel like I could possibly believe that. It seems like Ray, I mean, I don't know. We don't know if Ray regretted it or not, but the fact that Ray immediately told Lexi and had the conversation makes you think like they probably had some sort of agreement beforehand that maybe it was a blurry line. And so just to be safe, she wanted to like inform her so it didn't blindside her. Like at the very least, this is the most that we've seen from Ray and Lexi on what their relationship is like, is clearly they have enough communication where they feel like they would want, they care about each other enough to where they would want to communicate that so they're not blindsided, right?
Yes. Okay, but
Yeah.
here's where my anti-Lexi, this is where
We're
my
back to
anti-Lexi
this.
really begins. Because Ray said, and to be clear, Vanessa was horrible in this conversation. Like Vanessa was so unempathetic, so unattuned to like Ray's emotional state. Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that Ray is saying is that like Lexi was like, so like, how could you do this to me? Now I have to call my grandpa who you love to like tell my grandpa that you did this. Like
that felt very
is
immature.
so weird. And so
Yeah.
it's like, meanwhile, Lexi is literally saying, I will be potentially engaged to Mal. Like to me, that makes me so upset of how bad she's making Ray feel, who like for doing this like specific thing, which maybe they had some agreement about it. But Lexi repeatedly says when she's talking to Mal, we never said, like I never said don't have sex with Vanessa, but it's like, I don't trust Vanessa. And it's like, well, it certainly seems like the thing that you're upset about is this particular sexual thing because the choice already happened. So I guess it's like any idea that Ray is like anything with Vanessa probably is setting her off. But like, I just felt like the level of like, if you are confident in your relationship, you're doing these trial things. If it is like this betrayal of an agreement you had, I see that. But like the thing with like shaming, it felt like very like shame forward about like Ray, of just like, you're a horrible person. I'm going to have to tell all my family about this, which like, yeah, because you're on a TV show, but like, you don't need to like call your grandpa right now. Like, like,
Yeah.
chill.
Oh,
Like,
dang, Evvie. I'm starting to see the light.
No, you know what I'm saying? That was
I get it.
And I feel like probably a lot of that is because Lexi likes Mal, is enjoying the experiment, but doesn't actually see a future there. And so because she feels like, well, I'm not breaking that, I hear what you're saying about the talking about like, oh, but yeah, we could get engaged or whatever. I see a lot more of that from Mal to Lexi than I see in the other way. And so I feel like I definitely think that Lexi is one of the people who came into this experiment hoping that by the end of it, Ray is going to come around and want to get married to her. Like, I think that's where Lexi's head's at. And so that's why the jealousy comes from and stuff like, and I think also there's just Lexi and Vanessa talk about how they're kind of similar in some of their, they keep saying they're similar. I mean, they're both outgoing, but like besides that, I don't really see a ton of similarities.
Well,
so
they both like to get graphic about what actually happened there. I mean, Vanessa started, but Lexi certainly continued it. There were hand gestures there,
Yeah.
And, I just find it quite red flaggy, hypocritical to me the way that,
I don't mind the graphic talk, except I am one of those people who's watching this being like, you're in a restaurant. Are these plants? Like, if they're just like extras in the background, okay. But you are talking very loudly and a bunch of people are around.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Lexi definitely took this in the next level because, yeah, we only saw one sentence from Vanessa, but Lexi was just like trying to phrase it every possible way she could. And obviously their families are going to watch this and, oh.
Yes. And there was so much like, oh, was it an accident? Like, I think she was trying to like lawyer it. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, take a step back and like actually think what's happening. You're upset about this. Like, you're upset about this. Vanessa didn't do anything wrong. Like, I actually think Vanessa probably has the least blame of any in terms of the actual sexual thing that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless it's, something with Xander and Vanessa, but like, your problem was with Ray or like your relationship with Ray and like the level of like, I feel like it was, I perceived a fair amount of like sex shaming vibes of just like, oh, I'm allowed to like be so mad at you about like, oh, did your fingers like slip it? Like, it's just like so like graphic and like kind of rude in a way where like Vanette, like Mal is literally talking to her, like they're talking to each other, like, and this, I know you better than 99% of people, like, what?
Because the moment Mal and Lexi decide, or like if Mal decided, like, hey, let's explore that part of our relationship, especially if we decide we want to get engaged at the end of this, Lexi would be down.
Yes.
And then what?
Yes.
It's just because it's Vanessa and she hates Vanessa. So it's just like it turned into this petty thing that was just like,
Yes.
and poor Aussie was just like, let's just try to resolve this.
Yes. Well, okay, and this is something. So I watched all these with the person I'm dating, Danny, and we got into this big, not fight, discussion about the ethics of. Okay, so in the other group, Mal goes to Ray and they're kind of talking about this. And I really would just love y'all's take on like that conversation. Cause like, so part of my like Mal and Lexi don't feel so real to, I feel like Mal was very supportive of Lexi. Mal was very like, I'm so sorry that happened, you know, like being very supportive, very like, let's focus on us, which is like fair. Mal tells Ray, you know, I wouldn't have told Yoli if something happened there, which to me, I read as like kind of like sketchy behavior of like to go to the person Mal is dating is upset about something that this other person did. And Mal's going to go to Ray and be like, well, I wouldn't even told Yoli. I don't know. I found that shady. Danny disagreed. Danny was like, no, it was more like comforting / like focus on your own relationships vibe. But I don't know. I was like,
that's how I saw it.
That's how you read it too?
Yeah.
I saw it as, more so, I'm not trying to interfere right now with the trial marriages, so I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
Because they are oversharing.
Yes.
Like Mari, when I was talking to Mari about, she's just like, why is everybody telling everybody everything? I was like, Mari, you're dealing with queer people.
It's so interesting. I read it a completely different way. I read it as Mal saying like, almost like good on you for sharing, because I wouldn't have even done that necessarily. But also it's like, people hate it when I use my own examples, but I'm like, I know that like if you've dated, sometimes there are people who will date someone and say like, come home and say, oh, I got so-and-so hit on me today, or just so you like feel the need to share with you other people being attracted to them. And sometimes they're like, look, I don't need to hear those things necessarily. Like, I feel secure in our relationship. Why are you trying to, it makes me feel like you're trying to like make me jealous. And so I don't know, because we don't know exactly what Lexi and Mal's conversation about this was, but I'm sure Lexi is spinning things to, you know, for their own benefit to make them, I mean, and it could be not necessarily, I don't mean like in a bad way, like Lexi has their own perspective. And so if Mal's getting Lexi's perspective, Mal may be thinking, hey, look, maybe you don't need to tell everything to Lexi, because that's hurting our experiment. And it's also like, not maybe I know that you two want to be sharing, but like you don't need to do that when it's not going to be helpful, maybe.
Right. No, I hear all that. I feel like I really need to rewatch it of like what was the actual energy of it. I felt like there was some vibe of like Lexi maybe did want to know that information because she's clearly really upset about it, but like maybe that wasn't actually good for her to know that information. But like, I don't know that she would have wanted it to be a secret based on like that she's gonna like call her grandpa and like tell her about it.
You're right. I feel like it's fair game once these trial marriages are over and they're back and they're in their second trial marriage with their original partner. I feel like that's where you share all of this stuff, so you could really figure out like, okay, how are we gonna move forward? Can we resolve this? But like to do it right now, I see what Mal was thinking is like, now this is interrupted our progress. And even if I guess maybe they have like one more week of the 3 weeks left, and it's just like now Lexi's heartbroken, but it gave Mal an opportunity to be supportive and comforting, and Lexi loved that. So
because I think reading between the lines, everything that Mal's saying, and also with Mal saying like, oh, you've got nothing bad to say about Yoli, come on, I feel like Mal could be into Lexi at the end of this. If that, like, I think Mal would do a swap if there was an option.
It's
Yes.
just wild. Yoli seems so awesome.
I know. I told I
Yoli
was like,
seems
but
amazing.
I like
Yeah.
both Mal and Yoli, and so I'm like, what's the disconnect here
Yeah.
between you two?
Definitely.
There's something there. So we covered a lot of ground. We talked about everything at this point. Is there anything else that you're just itching to discuss?
Oh, I know there was so much.
Ugh.
Does anyone have any predictions on if any of these like new couples will be together? Not necessarily who they want to be together, but do
Yes.
you think that that any of them could work?
I genuinely think Xander and Yoli but
Yeah.
I hear you that the edit vibes of maybe that means they're not gonna last, but I'm rooting for them. I that's the only one I'm rooting for of the news.
I mean, if I had to pick a second, I would go with Mal and Lexi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't, because the only other one we're working with that's
Is Ray and
not
Vanessa,
it,
and I
yeah, it's
don't.
Ray and Vanessa, and Ray wants to be out of this as soon as possible.
Yes. Wait, y'all don't
Poor
think
Ray.
that Sam and Tiff and Ozzy and Mildred are headed for the altar? No?
Match
yeah,
made in heaven right there.
That's the whole like second part, is that we're gonna get a scene where Sam like does the thing where they leave their own couple, runs down the street to go talk to Tiff, because like, I just need, you know what, I changed my mind. I need Shiloh in my life.
Yes.
I'm all in. I'm all in on Shiloh.
Throw Shiloh in the bed. Let's go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, we're dealing with that on Married at First Sight this season. One of the couples didn't end up together, but the guy wants the dog. Like he literally
Wow.
offered $10,000 to get her
Oh,
dog,
no.
and she's like, "No."
Wow.
There's been a lot of that on reality TV, right? Didn't Matt
Yeah.
like lose a dog in a
Yeah.
relationship?
Yeah.
So this has
Dogs
been
are the star.
awesome. I'm so glad that we are able to discuss this. If you're listening to this, make sure you go subscribe to the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube channel, as well as subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed where you can get these podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review if you enjoyed this, so that we can know that you enjoy this and we can continue to keep bringing this content. But yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Evvie. So excited to keep talking about this with you.
So fun. I love that we disagreed about stuff, because that makes it always the most fun. So yeah, so
Right.
great. So great to talk to you both.
Where can people find you and follow you and keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Evvie Jagoda. Yeah, you can see anything that's going on with me there.
What about you, Mary?
Yep. Same situation. You can follow me everywhere at Frail Mary, and check out everything else I've got going on. What about you, Aysha?
Yeah, you can follow me on all social media at Aysha Like Aysha. That's AYSHA, like ASIA. Of course, I'm talking about Married at First Sight with my co-host Jason Reed over on our podcast called A Perfect Match, and that's also on this same feed that this podcast is on the Love at First Sight feed. So yeah, anything else I'm up to, I will definitely tweet about it. And if you were very intrigued by the dog conversation, go follow my dogs over on TikTok at Malshi Poo Sisters. They post a lot of content there. So of them not sleeping in bed with me. No, they do. But yes, we will be back next week to talk about the next batch of episodes 5 through 8, I believe. So very excited to be back next week. And make sure you leave some YouTube comments to let us know what you thought. All right, we'll see y'all next week. Bye.